Document Headings, Accessibility in Practice, Colorado Department of Labor and Employment. Today we're going to talk about heading structure in Google Docs. Headings are important because they help chunk and break up your document into manageable parts, and they're often used by visual learners for implied sections, so they help us organize our documents. And for screen reader and assistive technology users, they're very helpful for navigation. Folks can jump to a specific heading or section if they're labeled appropriately in Google Docs or Word. So let's look at our example of our inaccessible document. Our first heading on our document is our progress report for the unit. That's our title. We typically start with heading 1 as our first heading in a document. Now, I know it seems counterintuitive because in Google Docs, when you go into the Styles menu, there is an option for title and subtitle. But unfortunately, those two options actually do not translate well when using assistive technology. No one really knows why, but we stay away from those, even though they seem like they're intuitive options. Instead, we're going to use headings, beginning with heading 1. Heading 1 is always going to be our first heading and usually associated with either our title or our main idea that encompasses our entire document. All other headings will be nested underneath our heading 1 and will follow from there. I'll show you what I mean. So my progress report for the unit is my main title. So of course I'm going to make that my heading 1. But I'm not going to just select heading 1. I'm going to do another trick because I did already make this the font and style I like and I don't want it to change. I'm going to select my entire heading and then I'm going to go to the Styles menu, and before I click on heading 1, I notice there are two options that appear. It says Apply Heading 1 or Update Heading 1 to match. And I'm actually going to use the second version. When I select Update Heading 1 to match, you'll notice that nothing really happens to my heading, except now that it's selected, Heading 1 appears in my styles. If I select outside of my progress report for the unit heading, it goes back to saying normal text. But if I select my progress report for the unit heading again, I notice it is labeled heading 1 now. So what's happened is I have now updated my font style for my heading 1 to be the font of what I originally had for that heading. Genius! Now I don't have to worry about changing my font over again. Next, I'm going to look at my other headings. It looks like my next heading that has bold and underline is important workplace poster. That's kind of the secondary topic within my main progress report for the unit. This would be considered a heading 2. It's a topic within the main concept of the progress report, right? So it's a main topic, so it's going to be a heading 2. However, I know that I don't want to underline things that are not hyperlinks. So I'm actually going to first remove my underline from my workplace poster heading. So I'll select my entire heading and select Control U to remove that underline, since I don't want to make people think it's accidentally a link when it's not. Now I'm going to reselect it, and just like I did for my heading 1, I'm going to go back to my Styles menu, and I'm going to find heading 2. But again, instead of just selecting heading 2, I'm going to update heading 2 to match. I'm going to update my font style and size for heading 2 to match what I currently have selected. So now again, I notice that heading 2 is now applied to my important workplace poster heading. And now, if I go look at my heading 2, the formatting has been updated. Wonderful. As I scroll down, I'm going to probably find another heading in my document. Oh yes, that's right. DLSS accessibility progress was another heading in my document. That's another main topic. Now, is it a topic inside of important workplace poster? In other words, is it part of the workplace poster? Does it have anything to do with it? Well, no, it doesn't. It's actually a separate topic, right? It's not about the food dogs can and can't eat. It's not about the workplace necessarily. This is more about accessibility stuff. So I will make this also a heading 2 because it's still a main idea underneath the main title, but it's a separate idea. So I'm going to make that a heading 2. And although before I removed the underline, which I still want to make sure happens, the cool thing now is since I've updated my heading 2 formatting, I'm actually going to go to my styles menu, and now I can select heading 2, and it will automatically update my formatting and apply the heading 2 to my heading. So the style removed that wonky underline, and it applied trebuchet and bold. So now they are consistent. Wonderful. And now I go through my document, status of assignments. So I have these products, this accessibility progress. I have some information about things that have been completed. Maybe these assignments are related. So maybe this is actually something inside of my heading 2 topic, right? Maybe it's related to the DLSS products that we're talking about. In that case, this would be considered a heading 3 because it's not a separate idea like another heading 2. It's actually within my heading 2 of DLSS accessibility. So I'm now going to make this a heading 3 because we're getting narrowed down now into more specific content. So I'm now going to apply and update heading 3 to match. And now I'm going to go to my last section, which is how to convert this document to an accessible PDF, which seems like a wholly separate concept, right? That does seem different. So I'm going to apply a heading 2 to that because that does seem different. And that's it. That's all the content that I have in my document. So now that I've applied all my headings, I can actually go to my outline view of my document, and I can see all of my headings, where I have my heading 1, which is my progress report for the unit. I have my 3 heading 2s, important workplace poster, DLSS accessibility progress, and how to convert this document. And then I have a heading 3 underneath the DLSS accessibility progress that's called status of assignments. And what's cool about this is now that I've assigned these headings, I can select any of them and it'll take me right there, right to those sections. And that's exactly what will happen for users of assistive technology like screen readers or text-to-speech programs, is that they will be able to go directly to those places where they need to go. So this has made our document more accessible by identifying these specific sections by using headings. Good job! Find more videos on our YouTube channel at CDLE_DLSS.